Ooh, barely made it. How you guys doing tonight? Anyway, welcome back to the RC barn. I see I'm the only one here. Again, that's okay. We are going to get started on the Sig Wonder project. So let's see, where did we leave off last time? So we made our oversized rib here because we're upsizing this to 40 size, and we started laying out the plans for the wing. Now, if you're joining us after the fact, after the live, make sure that I do encourage you to watch this, but I am going to start editing these videos down and uploading them as time lapse and edited versions throughout the season. So make sure if you're a little bit into the future here and we're building it, hopefully, fingers crossed. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the biggest thing with we got our center line here for our leading it for our spars. I picked out some 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch screw spars for this, and so we need to lay out how we're going to attach the wings, and we need to figure out rib spacing. Now, rib spacing is pretty dang easy. As far as rib spacing goes on airplanes, if you're doing your own build like this, you need to determine rib length, rib spacing. So the upside to having like 3-inch spacing is less ribs, but you also get that void in between the two ribs. And if you're looking for a plane that's going to have speed to it or be aerobatic, and not a slow flyer, that causes significant drag on the airfoil on the airplane. So if you're looking for more of a streamlined wing like we're going to go with a little shorter rib spacing. I've determined that I want to go 1.5 inches, so that's what we're going to start doing, is going every 1.5 inches. And with my handy measuring tape here, I have not worked on this for a while. So we also want a rib on our fuselage width, which I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Yeah, 3-inch. So we're going to go 1.5 inches out past the rib plate placement. 1, 1/2, half 1, 1/2, 1. And then we'll leave a little bit bigger of a gap there. Okay, there's that. And then we're going to go off the center line of the fuse. How big of an opening do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 3 3/4. If we go 2, so that way we got kind of a wider opening in the center for a radio compartment. Sorry, I'm gonna block the balsa. You know what that's for, don't you? It's in the way. Okay. One. No. I don't like that. It ain't long enough. Running out of room on my building table here, on my drafting table here. Alright, so that looks like a lot of ribs. It really is. But that's going to give us a nice flat wing with no bays in the middle there. And there's a lot going on there too. So anyways, you got to remember that we're not going to put a rib on the center line. So those aren't going to be ribs. Those are just fuse centers. We're not going to have a rib here. So there's 3 that's gone. And then we're going to put 1 on each side of the fuse, so that way we got the strength there. The biggest problem with the Sig Wonder is hello, welcome. The biggest problem with the wing on the Wonder is it's got a weak spot up here in the leading edge area where the blocks go, where the dowels would go in, probably about right here. So what I did in the past with the kit Sigs Wonders is I put a big block up here, so that way it's got lots of engagement. That's going to be a pretty sizable block on this one. So I think what we'll do is put shear webbing on each side of it and put shear webbing on, or a plywood rail between here for shear webbing, and have the dowel rods engage into that. Okay, so that way we can have a removable wing. That was the one mistake that I made on the something extra twin there, is not being able to disassemble the thing. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and extend these out just for, if I can pick up my triangle stock here. Oh, that's center. This is east side, right? Yeah. Okay. So I went ahead and off camera went ahead and cut the rib out. Hey Dave, how you doing? Oh, it's just me right now. But it's going okay. So anyways, I went ahead and cut the rib out on a I don't know if you were here last time or not, Dave, but we started working on a twin fuse 40 size Sig Wonder is what I'm building here. So we're just laying the plans out right now. So anyways, in here we're going to want a block, so we'll put block. And then we'll go a 1/4 inch down off of our, since that's our spar location. Okay, and then we're going to put double here, or play. Whenever I'm doing my own plans, oh, okay. Whenever I'm working on my own set of plans, I don't get into too much detail. It's just a complete waste of time. You need where your spar is going to be. You need to know where your ribs are going to be, and you need to know where the ends of the ribs are going to, or how wide the wing is. We're going to be able to build this thing in one piece, because I got spars long enough to, these are probably 48-inch long spruce sticks. So yeah, we're not going to get into too many details here, but we're going to sheet it, we're going to cap strip it, we're going to have trailing edge sheeting, typical plans. So anyways, I wanted to kind of get off of this pretty quickly here, and I got my block here, and this is going to become our ribs. Kind of funny how it's a old 6 stock there. So we're going to lay our template up here. Now, you don't have to do it this way. There's multiple ways to cut ribs out. You can hand cut them out of sheet stock. You can cut blanks out of sheet stock and stack them and pin them together and cut them all out at once. You can, or do like what I'm going to do here is just cut a block of ribs out and slice them off. Cut a block of ribs out and slice them off like I like to do. I think I need to go get my pen sharpener, pencil sharpener. But of course, it's not in its typical location, and I have no idea where it's at. So what am I doing, ink pen? And I'm just going to trace this out. Pencil wasn't leaving a good mark on the sleeving edge, so I'm just lining it back up so I can darken that edge a little bit more, make it a little more easier to see. So anyways, there's a rib. Now, if you're not familiar with these are just the standoffs to keep the ribs nice and flat when we're building it. And of course, my shop's a damn mess, even though I spent a week trying to get this place organized. Oh, just right. Oh, I should add that while you're doing that, if you do this, it is of the utmost importance that you tune your table. Because if this thing's off just a tiny little bit, then you'll put a taper in this and your last 10-15 ribs will be wasted. And ours is it's just a hair off. I'm looking for this machine's edge to touch the whole blade, and I don't want to push it, I just want to touch it. A little more. There we go. That's good. That's why I had that out for. I forgot to do that stuff. Very important. Don't want to go wasting ribs. Today that would be a very expensive block of wood. Okay. So I try to stay as close to the line as I could. I'm not going to worry too much about this. I'll sand it off. I went ahead and cut a relief into our standoffs here because these will be later removed once the wing's built. Okay. And then, so I'm going to move over to the sanding apparatus here and get this cut. Now, you notice I didn't cut the slots yet because I want to make sure that I do this once and not do it twice. You see, I can already tell that we've gone too deep. They're almost the right width. I never trust the measuring tape because you don't know how these things got cut out. And they could be a little off. And like I said, you don't want to do this twice. So I'll cut these out now, and then I'll take care of that right there. I might be able to get that with the bandsaw too. Let's try a little harder here. Well, if you're just joining us, I'm sitting here cutting some ribs out for our twin water project. Get you. That's better. And I just made several saw cuts into there, the width and depth that spar calls for. And then you're left with some little pieces of slivers in here if you do it right. That break out pretty easily. And then we'll take a test fit. Oh, a little tight, a little sanding will take care of that. This is probably going to be the same. Yep. Just a touch on the tight side. I'm going to go get a sander real quick. Alright. So we're a little, what I like to do is take a piece of sandpaper and fold it in half. And then just let it relax. Just kind of work it in there. Widen this thing out. Let's see if this will fit. Almost. Yeah. I don't have one of those handy, so this is what I do. This has got a, can you believe this was made by Kyosho? I just picked this up in a couple buddies just bought a bunch of airplanes, more on that stuff coming soon. If you look up there, I don't know if you can see that huge cow sitting up there. New project coming. Like, we're getting there. It's just a little tight right now. Kind of work myself back and forth here so I'm not moving that spar location at all. Oh, see, we're starting to get there. It's just really tight fitting. Yep, a little more back here. A little bit of time here will save you gobs of time later on. See? Look how nice that fits. No overlap or nothing. Just the perfect height. Hopefully we can get all the ribs out of this one block. But if the case may be where we need more, depending on how many we need. Sometimes I'll just cut a few more out of cheap stock, or I might make another block. Oh, right there. Monty. Okay. Next up is our leading edge material, which I noticed is also quarter by quarter. So I'm going to lay this up on here and make sure that our cut line, where our cut line needs to be at. Pretty happy with that top one, but that bottom one's a little off. This will not be spruce. This will be balsa wood for easier carving. Yeah, I think I can live with that one. That's pretty good right off the bat. And we can also, if I need to, we can widen, make the, instead of going 1/4 inch, I guess it'd help if you see me. Instead of going 1/4 inch on the leading edge, we could also go like, 3/8 or whatever to build that up if we need to. So, yeah, anyways, there's our block. And then I'm going to grab my sanding block real quick, and we're going to sand this down flat so it lines up with the, yeah. Definitely looking a lot better. I got a little bit more to take off there on the, and no matter how tempted you are, do not hit this with a hand sanding is the way to go. I did that once. I got impatient and took it over to my belt sander to sand it down. When I picked it up, I'd sand it at the other side of the block off and threw it away because I didn't keep it flat enough. I think I can live with that. And then we're going to sand this edge here to get just to knock it down a little bit and get rid of some of the saw marks and smooth them out a little bit. Don't have to take much off of it because it's pretty good as is. And then we'll do the yeah, not a lot of people have. Let's see. Yeah, I'm so used to doing it with square, the leading edge with square stock up front. That's typically where I go to. I think it's a little stronger. I don't really like the dowel method just because it's, I think the accuracy has to be a lot higher for, for the dowel to fit in there just right so it's not wavy. I built a plane one time that had a dowel rod in the leading edge and it was wavy because my dowel rod, my holes weren't lined up perfectly. I would imagine if you were going to do a dowel rod and doing this method, you could get a, mark where the dowel rod would go and just drill through the block before you cut it all out. That might work. But I learned this method from an old time builder a really long time ago, and it's held with me. I mean, every plane that I've scratch built in the last probably 30 years has been done with the block method. In fact, a couple Seg Wonders that were scratch built back in the day were cut using this exact method. So I think you get more accuracy that way. Like I said, you can bundle this up. You can make your blanks, out of sheet and then cut it all out. But it's hard to hold them together, in my opinion. This way, it's all there, and you're making one rib, and we'll get, I used to work out the math as to the kerf and everything that you're going to lose. And if you're, you can measure the width of your saw blade and how wide you're going to make your ribs or how thick they're going to be to see how many you're going to get through. Now, the other thing we got to think about too is all the wiring that's going into this plane. There's going to be a lot of it just because it's a twin. So do we want to add holes into this now for routing stuff? I mean, we're going to have an aileron servo here and an aileron servo over here. That's going to have to be ran through. And then, are we going to build it like the something extra twin where the switch, battery, and receiver is all in the center pod? So does that mean all the rudder servos and throttle and rudder elevator throttle servos have to come back into the center section? That's a clean way to do it. As small as this plane is, it's probably going to be the way I go. So I think I'm going to chuck this up in my drill press, and I think I'm going to put a hole back here and maybe a lightning hole up here. And that might come in handy later on. So let me get my drill bit set here. I mean, a 3/4 inch is probably enough, as long as this will fit in my drill press. Let's see. And excuse the mess. It's been busy out here. I've been working on the cauldron and trying to clean stuff up. Yeah, that's the other way to do it, the template. You can make a plywood template and then bolt everything together. And then sand the shape or cut the shape. Guess what? I don't think it's gonna fit. See if I can choke up on this thing. Well, way. I don't have any idea if you guys can see what I'm doing here or not. I'm just using a spade bit here to go through. Got to cheat with the small tools here a little bit. No, not yet. You're gonna have to bear with me when I'm moving around the shop. My tools are everywhere. Doesn't matter how clean it is or anything, because it'll. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another one here. What I was doing is my drill press isn't long enough to get all the way through the blank, so I was hand feeding it in to get the point of the spade bit started. You know, this part here. So I had just enough room to get in there. So yeah, like I say, you got to make do with what you have. Sorry, I can't move my camera any closer because it's yeah, I'd have to move a bunch of crap. So now we'll do the same thing, but just behind this part now. Alright, so we got our 2 holes there. That'll give us our access holes for leads to go through and stuff. I don't think I can go much bigger than that and compromise some strength in the ribs. So that's as far as I'm going to go. And I think that's plenty of room for servo leads and stuff to pass through. So now let's set up the bandsaw for slicing these ribs off. This is actually kind of how I do it. First, now I don't know that we want to go with 16th inch ribs, but that's us. I feel about 30 seconds, but it's not labeled. But they're going to be too thick. Yeah, let's go 332. Just for some. I don't really like 16th inch ribs because I know they're light and everything, but 330 seconds isn't much heavier, so I'm not too worried about weight on this. So what I do is I clean my bandsaw off really, really well, and I have a stick here. You see what I'm doing here? So I got a 1x2 here, and that's my fence. And then I put the 16 or the 330 seconds up against there, and then I just make sure that it's straight with the lines here. I don't think it matters a whole lot if you're accurate here or not, but you know, all the accuracy that you can get, the better. And then this is why I did this bench this way, so that way I could screw my blank right, or my stop right there. Now let's see how that's just slide through. That's nice and smooth. In fact, we're just probably a hair wide. Then I get a clamp here and clamp the other side of the table. Let's do a test piece real quick and see what that looks like. Got a chunk of block here. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you can see that or not right there. That's way too wide, so we need to tighten it up just a little bit. I don't want ribs that wide. So let's move it in a little bit. That's pretty accurate right there. So let's run a test piece too. So anyways, we're just looking for flatness. Don't want any waves in it. Make sure it's got good thickness going through before you start cutting your ribs off. I've done this enough that I kind of know what to look for and what you need to do. The biggest thing is make sure your ribs are tight up against this, your fence, and go slow. Now, if that ain't go slow enough, line it up with a tapered rib there. Let's see if lowering this guy down a little bit will help. That's much better. We can use this somewhere. I'm just not going to use it in the where it matters at. Must be a hard spot in the road or something. I keep switching steady pressure here. I know, pretty boring. Putting a hell of a taper in them ribs. Now, when you start cutting taper, that's what you end up with. Nothing back here and a lot up here. So what are we going to use this for? Well, we'll figure it out, but we ain't going to throw it away. I guess I could shut that off so you could actually hear me talk. Yeah, so how many ribs do we actually need? So we're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 30 ribs. 15 ribs a side. And I guarantee it ain't 30 ribs in here. It's probably half that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we got half of them anyways, and we're left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extras here. So I'm not going to make you guys sit through that again to me cutting out that. So I'll probably do that off camera. Hey, we got 4 people in here. Cool. Welcome. If you're not familiar with the project, it's a Sig Wonder that I am making 25% bigger to increase the size to a 40 size. And we're also doing a twin engine, twin fuse style, like the something extra up there. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, yeah, just got done. We exploded the plans and we hand drew the rib out larger because my computer sucks. And I just got done cutting all the blanks out. So what should we move on to next here? You guys want to keep going? I know a bunch of you probably just joined. I got nothing but time today. So we got that drawn. Let's why don't we? How about start drawing a fuselage up? Yeah. My billing table's a mess right now, and I don't have enough parts to even think about starting the wing. So next week we'll do that. We'll start building. I think that was my table. Yeah. And we're right here. I'm taping these sheets together. I just try to get them as close as I can, but I don't worry a whole lot about making them nice and straight. Maybe we'll do one more. That'll probably be plenty long enough. In fact, that's probably plenty long enough. Let's see. Where are we at? Tape measure. Always looking for something. Yeah, it was probably my tape measure. I went pulling it off the bench. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to measure the fuse length here. We're right at, we'll call that 17 inches. Where's my sheet at? I need my calculator. Oh wait, no, not you. Calculator. Okay, 17 plus 25%, 21.25. Well, that's going to be a short fuselage, isn't it? 21 1/4. Plenty right here. Okay. Let's get rid of that stuff. Of course, I did that wrong. let's bring this up a little more ways than we did. That way we got more access to the 90 because we're going to probably need that a lot. And I'm just going to try to make this, I'm going to square this off just as close as I can get it. Okay. Alright, first thing we need is a sharper pencil. We want a datum line, which that's just the center line. Okay. And then we're going to mark the firewall here. We're just going to pick an arbitrary location to pick it. See if I can get you. There we go. Okay. And we'll mark off of that 21 1/4, which my tape measure on this isn't that long, so I'm going to go 18. Three inches longer. I suck at math. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, and 1/4. Can't forget about that 1/4 inch, right? And then we'll make a. Oh. Let's just do this. So there's our piece length. And then I'm pretty sure the top of the plans is, the top of the fuselage is straight. No, it is not. Okay. So the firewall is about 2.5 inches wide. That's going to make that 3 1/4. Okay. Hey, we're going to have to take a break here real quick. So I'll be back in 5 minutes or so, okay? I'm just going to let the live stream keep going here. Sorry about that. The nature calls, right? So, where were we? So 3 inches. So we're gonna go. The center line of the firewall is gonna be on the center line of. So 3. That's 1.5 inches, right? Yeah, 1.5. And then 1.5. Okay. I need to mark that out. Oops. Don't do that. There we go. Okay. That's our firewall location. And then all I'm doing is back and forth here. I got the cleanse draped over the cauldron over here. Now that bottom is straight. And then it kicks up at the back, kicks up in the nose, and then goes straight back. And then we need to get a datum line on the rib area. So we can go full length here on the bottom. We'll do that. Because like I said, that tail end kicks up a little bit towards the tail. So now we need to... Hi Tom. We're, hey, got some ribs cut. We're working on the fuse plane right now. So our kick up starts about 6 inches post the tail. So we need 6 plus 7.5. No. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. So this is where pickup starts. And then on the fuse, we should have a datum line there, or a center line. That's our, of course, it ain't going to give it to us. So our bag's about 2 inches wide. But we need to figure out where we're going to put that 2 inches at. So let's see if we can't find where the center of the... That's right at 3 inches up is where the center line of the rib is. So 3 3 3/4. So we'll come in here somewhere, put an arbitrary mark here. 1, 2, 3 1/4. And then that's going to be our wing center line where the rib's going to land. We're just trying to locate all the straight lines. I guess we should I'm just trying to locate all the straight lines. So we got our center line. That's where the motor is going to land. We got the flat line on the bottom, and now we have our rib so out here in space. So now it's just a matter of connecting the dots. All right. So I got a leading edge, or the nose of the is on 2 3/4. So 2.75 plus 25%. Call that 3.5 inches back. Okay. I'm going to place the rib here. So I got to show you what I'm looking at here. So I got my firewall here. This is the top of the firewall. And this is how far back that top plate's got to be. And then I'm going to center the rib. You remember the center line we drew on the rib? Well, now it's coming in handy again. The center line so we can get our wing saddle. Now we're going to have to do a little manipulation here because this isn't got any kind of sheeting or anything like that on it. But this will give us a point. And I'm going to say it's right about there. Okay. Yeah. And then we'll put some angle on this guy here. There's that. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my profile of my rib out while I got it sitting here. Probably the more important one's going to be the bottom. Okay. So there's our bottom rib structure there, and we can just kind of eyeball this to bring it back up. There we go. And then we'll draw this straight line back in. And we know by the wing plan that that's going to be 1/4 by 3/8. Was it 1/4 inch tall or was it 3/8 tall? Now the way that's looking, that's more like 1/2 inch. But I do believe we were going for 1/4. So we'll go 3/8. 3/8 long right there. Oh, hi, Tanya. Okay. So we're just going to connect the dots here and pretend we got a trailing edge here. Pretend we got a trailing edge here. There we go, close enough. So I think they got the the stabilizer is dead nuts on the center line of the wing, so we'll keep going that backwards. Okay. And then I do believe this was what, 2.5? 2 inches. So 2.5 inches. That's centimeters. Well, now we got to talk about the stabilizer because we ain't got a stabilizer yet. So what are my goals with this plane? Well, it is to be able to take this thing apart. Now, when we have the few sides like this, the rudders are going to be right next to the fuselage. They're probably not going to go way over. They're going to hang out the tail. So, but we need working rudders. So by putting them close to the, I've been thinking about this, by putting them close to the sides of the fuselage, it's going to make it easy to operate it with a servo in the fuselage, and we won't have to get fancy with bell cranks and like with dual rudder servos setups. Okay, so it's still going to be offset, but probably ain't going to be much. And I want to take this thing apart, so we can go a couple ways about it. We can have the whole stabilizer unbolt with the rudders and everything, but I don't think that that's very feasible, because then you're got to get in and undo linkages. That could turn into a major pain. You want it to be taken apart very easily, and yet remain, and put back together easily. So what I'm thinking of doing is, since this is a full flying stab, like if you have your, I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see me do, but if you have your flat stab here, and you got your rudders here, and your fuselage is here. See, like I said, they're just outside the fuselage, not into it. Well, how do we get this apart? So what I'm thinking I can do is I can split this elevator down the center and have have each elevator half operated by its own servo, kind of like what I did. I did that in a something extra twin. I have 2 dual elevators going to the back on each half, so that limits the demands of the elevator servo. So if I do that, then that's okay. So we got a servo here and a servo here and a servo here for the rudders, right? One for each elevator, one for each rudder. So if I split this thing like that, the wood. So I split it here, and then I take and have a chunk out of here, so that way I can put a doubler in there or a piece of ply down through the center and have screws here to join the wing halves. What do you guys think? We got 7 people here. Let's have a group discussion about this. How are we gonna? Is that do you think that's feasible? That's what I'm thinking. The reason why I'm getting to this point is if we split the elevator halves, well, if we make it out a 1/4 inch, it's not going to be very weak. It's going to be pretty weak through that center section. So if we make it, say, out of 3/8, or I mean, let me get my handy dandy tape measure out of here. If we make it out of 3/8, then you know, we got a more substantial piece of wood across the top of that to be able to bolt, because I don't think I'd want a gap, but I could put 2 sheets together. So maybe we go 1/2 inch thick and do 1/4 inch slabs. That would be more substantial. Hello. Waiting. I'm patient. I'll wait for responses. I know Tom's got an idea. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. No, you're fine, Tom. I think we should make it out of 1/2 inch. I think that'd be stronger. And that way I can double up on the 1/4 inch. And if we're really concerned about tail weights or weight in the tail, I can always put some lightning holes in it, because it is going to be a pretty good chunk of wood. Where I can see a 1/2 inch line here. Maybe. Wow, that's a thick elevator. But I think I'm going to go with it. So there's our elevator bottom. That's why we had to get into the thickness of what, I don't know how well that stuff you can see. So rib, elevator, back end. Of course, the elevator is going to stick out here. We can use a tapered piece of wood too. No, they're actually going to be in the prop wash, because they're going to be right next to the wing, and where or right next to the fuse where there's going to be an engineette. They're not going to be way out there like on the original Sig Wonder. I'm trying to hide the fuselage under the wing and make it more like a flying wing design with 2 engines sticking out. So that's my thoughts anyways. So now that we got a thickness here, we can come down our 2.5, and well, I'm going to go from the top because I think I want a more aggressive angle. I think it needs to have rudders on it just because it's a twin. I think it'd be a mistake to not have rudders. Okay. It just doesn't look like enough. I want more kick up. Let's see how much. I mean, we can put our rudder servo here and throttle up here, battery and receiver in the wing. The elevator can go back here under a hatch. In fact, we might be able to get 2 servos in there. So I don't think that's enough slope either. Let me get an engine real quick. What did I do with them? Oh, there. Okay. So here's the center line of the engine that we're using. It's going to be hard to get a tank in there online. So in line with the carb. I almost wonder if we shouldn't drop it down a hair bit. I think that's where it needs to be. See what I'm saying? Dave, there is no original plan. This is the original plan. Here's the small version. It's got dual rudders. And if you look here, I guess some of you might have missed some of this. So anyways, dual rudder, stabilizer. I know my plans are a mess. These things have been through hell. Anyways, when I enlarge it, instead of, like, I'm just making this a little bigger, right? But there's going to be a few slots here and a few slots here. So the rudder will be offset to the side of the fuse, of each fuse. But yeah. Does that make sense now? Because we're going to have a fuse here and a fuse here. And I can make the stabilizer. I'll measure it and see what it looks like on the plans, but I might end up having. Okay. This never had working rudders on it. This was only a 3-channel plane. So here's This will be the fin shape right here. So we'll put the hinge line in there, and hopefully it'll be worth it. Yeah. Okay. Now that that's out of the way. Something I just caught too is that this thing's supposed to have 4 degrees of down thrust. I think that we should do the same. 1, 2, 4. Boy, that's a lot of down thrust. Yeah, I think I changed my mind. That's a lot of down thrust. We can always shim it if we need to later. I never had to shim the something extra, and it's got 0, 0 in it. So I think we're going to move, now we can move this line down a little bit. The more I study those original plans, or those plans over there, I see the motor's not on the center line, that's 1/4, 1/2 inch down. So I think that would help our cause out a little bit here for fuel tank placement. So I think I want to go right there. I don't know how far that is. ½ inch. Yeah, that's not going to affect it. And then by dropping that down more, I could. That might be an option later on if weight starts becoming an issue. So I just want this angle to be more. You can hardly see it. I want the front angle to be pretty noticeable here, and I like that. And this is gonna might end up growing anyways. Oh, that looks much better. Sometimes you just got to look at it and say, yeah. So that looks better there. So old line, new line. I like that. They kind of match like they are supposed to. Yeah. I like that much better. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, your guys' input does matter here. If you guys see something that you would change or do differently, now's the time to speak up about it, because once I start building it, it might, a suggestion might get lost and whatnot. So, anyways, and one of the weak points that I really want to eliminate on this is that leading edge dowel rod. There's not a lot of material there that they gave for dowel rod engagement at the front. Now, I almost wonder I almost wonder if it would be worth having blocks front and rear and just put 4 bolts in each wing, in each fuse, instead of dowel rods. What do you guys think? Because you don't have, there's not a lot of room here to have a tight fit, and the way the plan showed is something like this. So they're trying to nosedive it into that former, and I never liked that. This is one part of the area build that I've never cared for. So I wonder, like the Mistress Quickly upstairs has got a thick doubler that comes down, and cradles this whole center section on both sides, and then you can put a dowel here and a dowel here. That sounds stronger to me too. Or maybe even we just put a bigger block in the nose and a smaller block, or a normal block in the rear. Anyways, we know we need a former here. And then we need a former here. Okay. Where's the plans go? 1, 2, 3. So we got one in the center here. Probably not a bad idea to have one there. Where's our CG at? Gonna be on the spar, right? Is that what it shows on the plans? That's what it looks like. I know where I'm going to balance mine at, on the spar. So let's put we'll stick one there, right on the balance point, because that'll be on the spar also. Yeah, okay, so that looks like a plan for that. And then I guess we wouldn't have to, got to think here a little bit. I might have made this come down too much, because it needs to line up with the top of the wing also, because then it's got a weird step to it. So how tall? This is why we make plans. Easy to change. Yeah, I think we could go. This is going to be. Okay. Okay. I like that. Okay. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Um, I mean, we're a little ways away from starting the build of the wings, or I mean the wings, the fuselage. So, uh, I like to. The other thing I like to do is when I'm doing stuff like this and I'm making a lot of changes or whatever, uh, I sit there and I look at it for a while and I sleep on it, probably a couple nights to be honest with you. Um, so that's why over the course of the last month that I've been um, basically taking all thanks Tom. Yeah, yeah. This is what. Make sure your phone number is not getting blasted on the internet. This is what Tom's talking about, like that kind of, and that comes off of a rib. So you would make a rib in the center. That's not a bad idea, and that's super lightweight too. So maybe we do that. Make a tab, make a, on the wings instead of omitting those center ribs, we put them in. Well, we make them out of, 1/4 inch ply in there, and then we don't have to put the heavy doublers in there on the wing spar in the center, and that also strengthens up our wing quite a bit. So maybe we make this a full-size former, right? But maybe on 2 of them we come off the bottom like this. Let's give ourselves a little bit of clearance there. Clearance. I would think a 1/2 inch would be plenty for tight height. Like that. And see, you got I know some of this might be hard to see here. So we come off the bottom and we make 2 ribs just like this with this notch. And then in the center, maybe we can fill this void in here with maybe that's the whole rib. So it angles in, and then we have our 2 dowel rods. Because the idea behind it coming apart is to make storage easier in the wintertime, so I don't have a big honking plane to store. The outer wing panels on the something extra do come apart, but you'd be surprised at how big the whole mass of the center is, and how difficult it is to store and not maybe pick up some damage in the winter when we're not flying it. So the idea would be that the fuse could come apart. It would make maintenance easier on stuff inside. I wouldn't have to have so many hatches like I did on the something extra. And it's gonna pack into a tighter area, because believe me, space is getting to be a very big problem up there. Bring your wallets with you in Toledo, because I'm gonna have a bunch of stuff for sale, because I gotta liquidate. I tell you what, I love YouTube, and I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. I like showing you guys how I do things, whether it's right or wrong. And but it's hard. You guys are expensive, and it's hard to keep up with projects. So Tom knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, that's the whole idea. So maybe this thing comes apart once a year, and goes back together at the beginning of the year and stays together, because it's not that big of an airplane. I got a trailer I can haul it. So and it's going to have a dolly, and so we got to figure that dolly out too, because I would imagine it's probably going to sit on the wing, and then maybe I'll have a peg in the back, or we'll have another brace back here, and so that way when this thing starts up, because they ain't going to have wheels underneath of this, it's going to be belly land plane, and then we'll have a yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's a pretty good idea right there. We got a good idea of what we're doing with this part of the build. We got stabilizer figured out. I need to add thickness here to the rib for sheeting. It's actually not too hard to do. Yeah. Any questions? Think it'll be done by April or May? Maybe I'll bring however far we got to Toledo this year. I'm planning on, of course, with the 2 builds, 2 weekends being there, and we are probably going to have some of the Revive and Fly planes coming at you. That's to be haven't even started on a couple of the ones that I would like to pass on to other people. So yeah, we got some of that coming up. I have been working on the cauldron for guys. Spent, what was it, 6-ish hours yesterday detailing that cockpit. Yeah. So, and it still ain't done yet. Yeah. I think it'll fly. I mean, we will it'll fly at least once, right? So anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off here. We've been at it for a couple hours. Made some pretty decent progress. This week I will get the rest of the ribs cut, and then see what else I need to have here on hand for building that wing. And I think we'll start constructing the wing. I don't anticipate that thing taking a whole lot of time, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 weekends. So that'll put us up to Christmas. And then we got, these fuselages obviously aren't going to take a lot of time. We can double them up. It's a pretty simple plane. I think it'll be ready to fly come spring. So need to have at least a couple months for paint and body work. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off here, and we will thank you everybody for sticking around watching the live stream today. We'll be back next weekend, but can't go a couple hours. Can only go an hour at the most next weekend because I'm back on 3rd shift. Yay me. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you click that like button, and we'll catch you on the next one.